Hello, welcome to another episode of CoinBlog. I'm Charles, and today I'm really excited to be talking to you about another 6 ICOs. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is definitely not financial advice. Always remember to do your own due diligence. I'm not paid, sponsored, or affiliated with any of the ICOs discussed in today's video. The views expressed in this video are just my own personal opinions. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and of course hit that notification button, because investing in ICOs is time critical and it would be such a shame for you to watch my content only to miss out on the latest ICO offerings. And of course, please be aware of any scammers impersonating me, not only on Telegram but also online. You're going to have to go to the About section of my YouTube channel to send me a direct email there, so as to verify whether or not you're actually communicating with me. I'm not actually going to bother telling you how I look at ICOs, because most of you know that by now. What I will say is I haven't actually got enough data to examine the token economics, so I'm going to be using the ICO category to look at what market niches the ICOs are operating in. And I will bring back the token economics when I can get data for the future ICOs that I analyze. So the first ICO I have for you today is Celer Network. Now, Celer Network wants to create an off-chain scaling solution for blockchains. It is not a standalone blockchain, but a generic networked system running on top of existing and future blockchains. Now, one thing that actually stood out for me with Celer Network is that transactions are actually processed off-chain by only those involved with the network, which to many could be seen as some form of centralization. Now, before I actually put this video together, I did see somewhere that their hard cap is $30 million. I haven't actually verified that for myself, so I don't know if that's true. But if they are asking for 30 million, that is too much money, in my opinion. So we can see here I've been very generous with the scoring with Celer Network. I've given them 8 out of 10 for hype. And the reason for that is simple. They've just got very good community engagement with above average market awareness. There seems to be a lot of engagement in their Telegram chat, and many people know about this project. Now, when it comes to Celer's team scoring, I gave them 7 out of 10. They're a small team, but they're academically orientated, with 4 core team members and 3 advisors. Former employers include Google and Veriflow, with internships held at Intel, Nokia, and Microsoft. Now, when it comes to the ICO category score, Celer is operating in the blockchain service niche. Now, I've said before, when looking at ICO categories, I look at them as being dynamic. They're not static. They operate with the whims and opinions of investors in the market. Now, if you look at something like Lightning Network, Liquidity Network, Raiden, and Trinity, all these ICOs aim to provide off-chain payment scaling solutions. Though the Celer ICO provides a developer library and with faster transaction times, the investor community does not favor ICOs operating in the blockchain service niche when the market's in a downtrend. The recent Unibright, DAOstack, and DML ICOs actually testify to this. The second ICO is Origo. Now, I actually like Origo. I think it's an interesting project, and it wants to build a privacy-centered platform for decentralized applications. The project's value proposition hinges on what it calls a zero-knowledge proof system, which gives users on the Origo network the option of concealing their transactions. So one thing that stood out for me when looking at Origo is that by using zero-knowledge proof methods to encrypt smart contracts on the user side actually has an immediate use case, because it appeals to financial institutions and large conglomerates that want to hide important personal information. Now, when I contrast that against Origo's testnet, it just doesn't look good. I think Origo's roadmap is just too long. Testnet won't be available until December of this year, with their mainnet not launching until September 2019. And in June 2020, dApps will be able to issue their own privacy-preserving smart contracts on the Origo platform. Now, we can see here with the hype, I gave them 5 out of 10. Fairly average in my opinion. The project has attracted investments from Neo Global Capital, Polychain Capital, FBG Capital, Kinetic, Signum Capital, and 1KX. However, don't be fooled, because Origo's Telegram channel is actually inflated due to its airdrop. Having 49,000 speculators in their Telegram group does not warrant organic interest in Origo's product vision. When it came to the team, I gave them 7.5 out of 10. I actually like the team quite a lot. I think they're quite solid. The Origo project has several experts with domain expertise in mathematics, insurance, aeronautics, cryptography, and the Chinese marketplace. I believe it's a Chinese ICO. So the two individuals that stood out for me in the team were Frank Fang, a former senior engineer at Pinterest, responsible for several of Pinterest's large distributed systems, and Yijia Zhang, a former Google senior software engineer for over 5 years. When it comes to the ICO category score, it's the same as Celer. I gave them 3 out of 10. They're actually operating in the blockchain service niche. The third ICO I have for you today is Jura. Now, Jura wants to create a blockchain ecosystem with greater throughput. Now, Jura's white paper uses a lot of buzzwords and acronyms to capture the investor's imagination, claiming their ecosystem rests on 4 core technologies, specifically sharding or P2P node partitioning, proof of utility consensus mechanisms, artificial intelligence, and of course, where would we be without our direct acyclic graph lattice fusus data structure? No, I'm not making that up. It really does say that in their white paper. You can go and check it out for yourself. When it comes to hype, I gave Jura 7.5 out of 10. And that's because a very well-known crypto YouTuber has actually spoken about the project on his channel, increasing Jura's awareness significantly. Engagement in Jura's 13,000 strong Telegram group indicates high levels of unmet demand. Now, when it comes to the team, I went to the project's Telegram group and I noticed that all the admins actually work for MW Partners, a successful private investment consortium that specializes in blockchain startups. MW's portfolio highlights include Zilliqa, DragonChain, 0x, and Vault 12, to name but 4. For Jura's core team members, we have the first co-founder, Mr. Dongling Wu Daflon. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. He was an intern for 3 months at Boeing. Then we have the second co-founder, Shang Ma, and he actually worked at Google and Yahoo for a combined total of 3 years and 4 months. And finally, we have Alex Dang, the third co-founder. He has a PhD in biomedical engineering from Columbia University. So I gave him 6 out of 10 for that. And the reason why is because I saw MW Partners as admins in the Telegram group. That tells me that Jura definitely have some connections in the blockchain space, and that's why I'm going to be keeping an eye on them. And depending on what their token economics are when they're released, this could definitely be something to watch. For the ICO category score, I gave them 10 out of 10 just because they're operating in the blockchain niche, and I'm going to be talking to you about that in a little while. The fourth ICO I have for you today is Vite. Now, I'll be honest with you, I hate the name. It's a stupid name. Yes, it's one syllable, and I guess it's memorable for that reason, but otherwise I just think it's very unimaginative. Now, Vite seeks to create a high throughput decentralized application platform using direct acyclic graph technology. For the hype, I gave Vite 6 out of 10. The Vite team have a very strong social media presence and are actively engaging with potential investors in their media channels. The Vite website has an Alexa rank of 500,000, but it lacks the presence and buzz that accompanies projects with unmet demand, like QuarkChain, Nex, or the Phantom ICO. For the team, I gave Vite 7 out of 10. We've got the founder, Charles. He has corporate experience gained from Meituan and JD Group, so that makes him world class in my opinion. And his Twitter account was created alongside the start date of his ICO back in March of this year. So that's not a red flag, but it's not good. It's not professional. I want to see people with Twitter profiles that were created long before people start doing ICOs. Then we've got Ming Wu. His LinkedIn profile is not affiliated to the ICO, At least it wasn't when I researched him 2 weeks ago. That might have changed now. He worked at Microsoft for 11 years and holds a PhD in computer architecture. He knows the founder, Charles, from both of them being students at the University of Science and Technology in China. And finally, you have Richard Yan, the Chief Operating Officer, who has lots of corporate experience gained from Goldman Sachs, Barclays, Citigroup and Morgan Stanley. He also holds an MBA. Now, for Vite's category score, I also gave them 10 out of 10. Same with Jura, and that's because they're operating in the blockchain niche. Vite is offering the same features and innovations as its other direct acyclic graph rivals, such as Phantom and Hashgraph. Now, institutional investors that are already on board with Vite include Starwing Capital, Node Capital, Link VC, and Bitmain Technologies. Now, this is really what made Vite stand out for me as a potential investor, because Bitmain Technologies, or Bitmain as it's also called, is a privately owned company headquartered in Beijing, and they are a Bitcoin mining consortium and actually design and build ASIC mining chips. The company also operates Antpool, which you've probably heard of, historically one of the largest Bitcoin mining pools. So Vite is definitely something to watch, but I haven't seen any evidence to say that they've got an MVP or a product. That is definitely forthcoming. Now, the fifth ICO I have is Aergo. Aergo wants to create a blockchain infrastructure for enterprise clients that offers 1 million transactions per second via sidechains. For the hype score, I actually gave Aergo 7.5 out of 10. Aergo's website has an Alexa rank of 1 million with over 11,000 users on its Telegram channel. The project has garnered significant awareness with crypto influencers in the market, and the ICO crowd sale is not due until August, which leaves room for increased market awareness. So I have been generous with the hype here, and that's because the ICO isn't happening for another 2 months. Depending on what their token economics like, and depending on how they play the market, it could even be on a similar level to something like QuarkChain or OneChain. But again, we really need to find out what their hard cap is and what they're going to offer investors. When it comes to the team score, I gave them 7.5 out of 10. Aergo's parent company, Block O, operates a popular South Korean blockchain as a service portal that claims to have worked with companies such as Samsung, Hyundai, and Credit Suisse. Former employers of the team members include Accenture, Banco Santander, and T-Max Soft. So I actually think Aergo has a world-class team. But again, it remains to be seen what they're going to offer us, because it's not going to happen for another 2 months. And like Jura and Vite, Aergo is operating in the blockchain category. So I gave them 10 out of 10 for that. Now, the final ICO I have for you today is Perlin, which has got a lot of attention recently. The Perlin ICO wants to create a marketplace that accesses the underutilized computer power of users' devices, which are then quantified and commodified by a proof of computer availability mechanism. For the hype score, I gave Perlin 9 out of 10, a very, very high score. And that's because the Perlin ICO was recently reviewed by the Crypto Briefing website, which rated the project highly, causing interest in it to spike, giving it an edge over its competitors in an increasingly saturated ICO market. For the team score, I gave them 8 to 8.5 out of 10. We have Dorji Sun, the project manager. He's an advisor to Santiment, Quadrant Protocol, Airblock, Republic Protocol, Locky, and Devery. Mr. Sun has a very strong track record in the startup industry, having sold 4 companies he founded. Then we have Kenta Iwasaki, who's the CTO of Perlin. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. Mr. Iwasaki was the former robotics engineer for the Chinese drone manufacturer DJI. However, he only worked there for 9 months, according to his LinkedIn profile. He was also the artificial intelligence researcher for South Korea's top internet company, the Naver Group. But again, he only worked there for 9 months. So maybe I'm being a bit generous with the team scoring. However, most of the individuals check out and they seem like they're hard hitters. Now, for the ICO category score, I gave Perlin 5 out of 10. Merlin is operating in the same market niche as the Ankar ICO. Both projects want to disrupt the cloud computing market, but their success actually hinges on adoption by miners. No miners means no adoption means no users means no money. So it's very important that they tick all their T's and dot all their I's and make sure they have a formula or a strategy to actually attract miners to their protocol. Otherwise, they're going to be in a sticky situation. Now, as we can see here, there's a real demarcation between the ICOs on the left and the ICOs on the right. And the reason for that is very simple. I'm biased towards blockchain ICOs. And that's because with a blockchain ICO, generally speaking, you're going to need their token to buy into or invest in ICOs that are built on top of their platforms, or dApps that are created on top of their platforms. Just like Neo or Ethereum, if you want to invest in an ICO that's using the ERC20 token on top of Ethereum, you need to buy Ethereum. And it's a similar concept for these ICOs, should they choose to start launching projects and dApps on top of their platform. Now, when it comes to Perlin, Celer and Origo, I'm more skeptical, especially with Celer and Origo. And that's because they're operating in the blockchain service niche. I really feel that blockchain service niche ICOs are a mixed bag, and that's because their marketing message is more distilled. You know, if you want to create a wallet for cryptocurrencies, or advertising on the blockchain, or something to do with off-chain scaling solutions or privacy or stuff like that, I just think that users that aren't in the know aren't going to know what these guys are on about. So that's why I always pay more attention to these blockchain ICOs. Now, in order to give you a better picture about what I'm on about, it's always good to look at past ICOs. So we can see all these ICOs I have previously reviewed. You can always go back to my videos on my channel and you can watch them there. But in order to get a better picture of what these ICOs are doing, we need to look at their ICO categories and really how they interact with one another. Now, apologies if this looks like a mess. It is a bit of an eyesore, I admit, but you can see that we've actually got all the ICOs lined up to their data points nice and clearly. So what we have here is a graphical representation of my bias, of what's going on in my head when I look at and analyze ICOs. When I look at ICOs, I always look at them in relation to one another, and you should really do the same thing. It's an excellent way of building up a picture in your head of how the market works. When it comes to finance ICOs like lending platforms such as Libra credits or finance platforms like Acropolis, it's not that I dislike those projects. On the contrary, it's just that other ICO investors seem to not think much of them, and that's why I have scored them as such. Then you've got the blockchain service ICOs such as DAOstack, Celer, Origo, and although I like these kind of projects, and I know what you're going to say, well, Charles, you know, Celer is different from DAOstack and Origo is different from all the other ICOs that are in the blockchain service category. I'd actually disagree with you, because it's not so much about what they want to do, it's about their marketing message. Blockchain service ICOs, their messaging, their marketing is too mixed. I'd rather give my money to ICOs that have a very clear value proposition, such as currency or exchange or blockchain. These are ICOs that are offering investors something that people that don't know anything about cryptocurrency can look at and say, okay, I get it, I understand. You want to do a de facto currency like Metronome. You want to do a decentralized exchange like Nex. They don't need to know what a Merkle tree is or what a hash function is or any of that malarkey. They can just get on with it and give those projects their money. When it comes to DAOstack, Celer, Origo, these are ICOs, these are excellent ICOs, but if you're not in tune with blockchain technology, you're not going to have a clue about what these ICOs are on about. And that's why I have penalized blockchain service ICOs so severely. They don't seem to be doing very well in bear markets. I actually think differently in bull markets, but that's another story. When it comes to cloud computing, I don't actually think anything of it. Waste of time, because you could do it with centralized servers. I know people go on about privacy and trust issues, Personally, it doesn't bother me, but that's just my opinion. And finally, we have data service ICOs, which I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. So that's really how I see the ICO market. And as I've said before, it's very important to look at these things in relation to one another and to remember that these categories are dynamic. They're not static. They change with the whims and attitudes of investors in the market. So at the moment, blockchain ICOs might be at the top of the pack. 2 or 3 months from now, it could be finance ICOs or currency ICOs. It just depends on what investors want to throw their money at. Now, out of all these projects, which ICOs do I think are actually going to do well? Well, it depends on their token economics and it depends on the quality of their product offering. I'm biased and I have a feeling that these 3 ICOs, if they can get their MVPs out in time and have a reasonable hard cap, are going to do well. But in the current market, I need to see hard caps of around 20 million. Anything over 20 million is too much, unless they have like Bill Gates or Elon Musk on the team or something like that. I always look at ICOs in relation to the team, and that's how I calculate what their hard cap should be. I also look at ICOs in relation to their product offering and whether or not other ICO investors are getting a fair deal. With all these other projects, the hard caps are going to have to be 20 million maximum or less. If it's going to be like 25, 30 million, I wouldn't touch it in a bear market. I'm actually very conservative when it comes to investing in ICOs. So that should really give you an idea of where I'm coming from when it comes to investing in ICOs. As I said before, you can't stop loss an ICO investment. These are very high risk projects. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and of course hit that notification button, because investing in ICOs is time critical and it would be such a shame for you to watch all my content only to miss out on the latest ICO offerings. Make sure you join my Telegram group. I'll put the link down below in the description, and of course I also have a spreadsheet which you can also find in the description there. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.